Howdy everyone, and welcome back to The More You Grow. I'm just enjoying the morning out here on the porch, and I decided today I want to work on a project that I've been wanting to do for a while. That is to build a quail hutch to go on the back porch here. Something that you may not know about me is before I ever had a YouTube channel, I had a small quail farm of my own that I'd get about 200 eggs a week from, and I would use those just as selling fresh. I'd pickle some of them for friends and family, things like that, and I really enjoyed it. It was a labor-intensive process, but I decided that I really wanted to have some quail again. I really loved how they sounded, just enjoying watching their personalities, things like that. So I'm not going to build a quail farm to the scale I used to have, but I still want to have some quail to enjoy. So I'm going to build a smaller hutch that can go on the porch so that I can roll into the shop when weather gets bad, things like that. So we're going to build that today. The design I'm using is a combination of different things I've seen and a few ideas of my own. I am going off with some of the videos I've seen on YouTube, such as 4 Kids in a Farm and Slightly Redneck. I'll leave the links for their builds down below and their quail coops below. They are pretty good builds, so I'm going to modify those a little bit, kind of combine and modify to what's going to fit what I want, and we'll see how that goes. So let's go check it out. So what I'm working on right now is the quail hutch frame. So I'm doing things a little bit differently than the videos that I mentioned before. I kind of use them as inspiration, but again, I'm going to kind of do some of my own things. So I'm going to be using 4x4s as my post rather than 2x4s because I want to put wheels on the bottom of it where I can move it from the back porch into the shop. I also need to make my quail hutch a little bit heavier duty just because we have some really severe winds out where I live, and on the porch I'm afraid if I use too light of wood, such as a lot of 2x4s and 2x2s, which I am going to use some, I'm afraid it might fall over in the wind just because we get some really intense winds on the back porch here. So I'm going to be building this a little bit where they have shelter and that this is going to be a little bit of a heavier frame. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put 4x4 posts that are 4 foot long in the middle or on each corner, and then this frame right now is 6 feet long and 2.5 feet wide. So let's put the legs on this and then we will continue to move on from there. Alright guys, so I had planned on having kind of a time lapse going on, and I realized my camera hadn't been running this whole time. So let me take you around and show you what we've gotten done here in the last few steps. So this is going to be again a 6 foot by 2.5 foot quail pen. It's upside down right now. So it's actually, these are the legs of it and the roof of it's down here. But I went ahead and I cut these to 2 foot 3 inches so that they would fit to where the whole thing will be 2.5 feet. You gotta always make sure to measure what your total length will be, because if you go by a 2x4 or anything like that, you may end up having a different measurement if you don't take into account the end boards here. So every one of the inside boards are 2 foot 3 inches. So we've got that. We've got some 2x2s in the middle. These are the floor supports and the roof supports. So it's just to cut down a little bit on weight. I could have used 2x4s, but I just want to cut down on the weight a little bit because these 4x4 posts are going to add quite a bit in themselves. So we got the 4x4 post. I went around with a level and made sure all the bottoms were level when I put these sides on. So we have them all leveled up now. And what we're going to do next is we're going to put on the sides. What I want to do is I want to build kind of a nest box, not really a nest box, but a place for them to go into if the wind gets bad or it gets kind of cool, and they can have a place inside. So I will do that, and I'm also going to build a sandbox on the inside, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's important here in either this video or when we get the quail and when I get that all put together. So we'll talk about the sandbox, everything like that, but now I'm going to go down to my scrap pile and see if I can find some siding pieces, things like that, to build a really nice looking nest box or a roost, I guess you could say, on the outside. So let's go take a look at that and see what we got from there.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm Eric's wife, for anybody who hasn't met me. And we just put the frame together, and before we move on to anything else, we wanted to paint it, which is my department. That's why I'm here telling you about it. So we decided to use a very weather resistant paint. So it'll be safe from too much moisture and too much heat, more than the wood by itself. So, and it looks nice. And so I decided to paint it gray because our house is white and you wouldn't be able to see it otherwise very well. So I painted the whole thing gray. We were gonna film it, but I was like, I'll just start, and then before I turned around, I was done. So here it is. I've painted all the pieces for the box, but we wanted to tell you all about it first before we went any farther.
All right, so now that Morgan was very sweet and decided to paint this for me where I didn't make a mess out of the shop, I'm not very neat about using paint, so that's, again, her department. She painted it super nice, got it really even. So what we're gonna do now, before we can put the nest box on, is we're gonna go ahead and cut some hardware cloth, some 1/2-inch hardware cloth. We're gonna go ahead and put that on there. We'll just use some staples to put it up for now. I may come back in later on and secure a little bit more with that. But I'm just gonna cut a couple of pieces of hardware cloth to cover up to the nest box. And then the nest box will just have some plywood pieces in the back that I'll have hinges on and everything where I can get inside of it. And I'll show you when we get back here. I've got some cool ideas for giving the quail something really nice back here that they can stay in and to give them something they can really enjoy. Let's go cut this hardware cloth, get it on, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the nest box. Well, here we are in the shop. We're gonna work on the quail hutch a little bit more today, show you what I've got going on with it. Got my shop helper here, Lily. If you have not met Lily yet, come here, everybody wants to see you. If you've not met Lily yet, she is the newest addition here on our homestead. She is I think 6-month-old now. She's 6-month-old Augie, so she's half mini Aussie and half Corgi. And if you haven't met her yet, I put an Instagram post up about her here just not long ago, so where you can see what she looked like when we got her and all the cute little funny things she does, because she is quite the character. Yeah, she's quite funny, as you can see. She likes to chase her non-existent tail. So if you want to see some more of her being cute and funny, be sure to go check us out on Instagram, where I get a post all about her and how she's been in our life and everything. So she's here to help me work on the quail hutch. I'm going to go over some of the things going on here. All right, so let me show you what we've got going on with the quail hutch back here, because we've added a few more things since the last part of the video that we've talked about. So in the last part, we just got done painting it and everything. So right after that, we got the hardware cloth put on. Sorry, Lily's over here playing with her bottle. We've got the hardware cloth put on. It's 1/2-inch hardware cloth, so that's gonna be perfect for the quail because their feet can't fall through it, anything like that. And we just stapled it up there with a staple gun, nothing fancy there about that. And we've got the side pieces put on for the box up here. We still got to add the front. So let me take you back there and talk a little bit about what we've got going on with the nest box or the shelter area. So we have our nest box back here. It just got plywood pieces, and I kind of framed it out with some 2x2s and some 2x4s, but here's the lid or the door on this, and we'll just have a latch to go down on top of this once I can get a latch. And it's gonna make it really easy to be able to go in here and clean this out and to collect eggs is the goal here. So let me show you what I've done in here as well that is kind of different, kind of handy, that I got from another YouTube channel. So in the coop area, you'll see this board running across here. I did this on purpose because I wanted to add a sandbox for them to have. So quail like to take dust baths using just something like play sand. They really enjoy it, and it also is one of the places they like to lay their eggs. So I put this inside the pen where I can clean it out when I need to, anything like that. And it's also gonna be a good spot for them to start laying their eggs, because when I raised them in the past, I used to have a quail farm with a couple of hundred quail, and when they laid their eggs, they like to lay in the sand. So I'm giving them a sandbox in here so I can kind of collect eggs. Quail aren't the best at laying their eggs in like a nest box or anything. Like chickens, they go to a nest box to lay their eggs. Quail are kind of like, oh, what is that? Oh, look, I dropped an egg. So they kind of just randomly lay their eggs. But if they have a sandbox, sometimes they like to go to that to lay their eggs every so often. So I'm gonna try to do that and make it where I have a collection spot here. And it's also a good place for them to take dust baths and things like that. So what we have to do now is we have to make the front of the coop, and we need to put a door on to where we can get into the pen area of the coop. So it may be kind of hard to see, but we're gonna put our door frame right here. I've already got the wire cut out for that, and I'm gonna put in my pieces. So let me show you how I'm making the door. It's not the most conventional way, but it's the way I know that would work with what I've got. Okay, so the way I'm gonna make this door frame is I have some 2x4s that I cut out. I cut a little notch out of the top of them with our circular saw, no big deal. So I cut these holes down into the wire right about here that is the shape of these. And so what we're gonna do here is we're going to take this end, put it in like so, and it's gonna make our door frames. It's gonna go right up against this right here, right up against the inside, and makes a perfect notch around the top and the bottom 2x4s. So I will just drill this in from the top right up here and from the bottom and just staple the wire to it. And then once I put these in, I'll show you the door that I made for this. She'll do this for hours. Well guys, we have the Quail Hutch all completed now. So you saw in the part of the video, we went ahead and got the door put on here. I just put on some hinges, we made the door frame here, put some screen on the front, and a little latch here. So that's worked out well. We have the box all completed back here at the back. So we just put the front on, we cut out a hole for the door. I will say, as a word of advice, I learned the hard way. You want to make sure you put this front part on before you put the side wire up, because getting in this thing once the wire is up is not worth it and not a fun time. So it's all done, we got it, no big deal. We've got it all done now. So we've got that, and look down here real quick guys. We also put wheels on the bottom of this so that way when weather gets bad, we can roll them in here into the shop. So just as a test run to see how animal friendly this is, we have our test subject back here. Let me go show you who we've got. So in the box here, we have Carrots. This is my wife's class pet. You know, she's wanted to let him run around in it for a little bit, let him get some exercise and get a little open space. So he's enjoying it. He's not gonna stay in here. He's probably gonna stay in here for just a couple hours, but wanted to see what, you know, an animal thought of this whole thing. So he's kind of checking out the situation, and we'll see how he likes it. So Carrots is going to be our test subject, aren't you, buddy? So what we're going to do next is, now that we've got the pen done, we just have to get some quail to put in it. So when we get that done, I will make a whole video about getting quail, putting them in here, everything like that, and talk about the quail I'm going to get. Along the way, leave it down in the comments. I'll try to answer what I can. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to go check us out on Facebook and Instagram. The links are down below. I'm going to try to post some more regular content on Instagram, things like that, between videos, so that way you can kind of see what I'm doing during the week when I do things. And I'm still gonna post videos here, but I'm just gonna try to give you some more small, regular content along the way on Instagram. And until then, I hope you'll join me right here on The More You Grow.